Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. I'm about 50 minutes to an hour from where I actually live. I know you can't get any bearings by me showing you where I'm standing, but basically we're about 5-10 minutes from Kent State University. So if you know where Kent State University is in Ohio, that's pretty much where I'm at today. So this video is about all of my past real estate projects that I either owned or was a part of in terms of development, leasing, marketing, all that good stuff. So we're going to go over a duplex that I owned. We're going to go over a single family home that I owned. We're going to go over a single family home that I built new construction to sell. And then we're going to go over acquiring a 100 plus acre development with about 100 residential lots on it and what we ended up doing with those lots. So that 100 plus acres turned into a $30 million, 168 plus unit apartment building, Class A, for the market in the area. And then since I left that development company, they actually partnered with another product type. It's a single story ranch luxury style apartment. So I'm going to actually describe to you what those are and why that's such a good product type for 2019 and beyond. So without further ado, voila, here is a duplex that I built, ground up, brand new construction. Cost about $100 a square foot when it was all said and done. This actually came with the defunct development that we bought from a publicly traded bank. I'm not going to give specifics in this video because I still have relationships with these partners to this day. However, we ended up selling this duplex. However, when I actually had it rented on this side, I had this side rented out to an older woman who wanted to be close to her family, basically her son and her grandkids. And then on this side, it was a dentist that was actually going through a divorce. So not sure if they're there today. We sold these about a couple years ago, so I'm not sure who's living here or who owns this. But you can see here that they're starting to follow our trend, and they're popping up these duplexes pretty much all the way down this street. And behind this right here, behind these woods, I'm actually going to show you the $30 million apartment complex that I was a part of. And then further on in that development down this road here, which actually we're going to be going to the left, I'm going to show you the house that I built, brand new construction, ended up selling that. So it's going to be an interesting episode. It's boots on the ground. It's not going to be in front of the whiteboard, but there's reasons why I want to tell you about these projects and why I ultimately ended up selling the rentals that I did have. So this is the first duplex right behind me. We're going to drive down the street. I'm going to tell you about this apartment complex. I'm going to tell you about the single story luxury apartments and why that product type is doing so well right now. I'm going to show you the single family that I built, and then I'm also going to show you the single family that we had as a rental, and we also sold that. So without further ado, let's get into it. These were the apartments that we built. These are all Class A for the area. There's about 168 plus units. I think they've expanded since I left the development company. But basically you can see here that it's really good product. I actually came up with the names of the floor plans here, but you can see here that they're expanding all of this down here, and they're actually building more and more of these. So the biggest demographic that was in this area, and it was actually a mistake that we made, we built way more 3 bedrooms than we should have. We should actually probably build a little bit more singles. And the reason I say that is just because this is kind of like a big college town. So Kent State University, as I mentioned, is about 5-10 minutes north of here. And I'm actually going to walk over here so you guys can see what this used to be. So when I first started working for this company, we just acquired this land here. So this is about 120 acres, not all of it, which you can see on camera, and it's kind of hard to catch with the GoPro. But if you see all these little rooftops, that's the single story product that I was telling you about. And that product is doing very well, and I'll explain to you why. However, just to give you some idea of the story of this was basically all dirt, okay? Just dirt as far as the eye could see. And the story of acquiring that was, it was actually a defunct residential development, okay? So in one of my videos, I talk about good debt and bad debt and how people, sometimes get over leveraged. Sometimes you can use debt as, you know, a lever to get you where you want to go faster, or use it as a tool. Well, this original developer used it a little bit too much, to the point when '08 happened, you know, we acquired maybe like 100 vacant lots from this defunct development. So the goal with that double, and the reason we sold it, is because we originally wanted to build like a bunch of those doubles and build, you know, single family homes, and build, you know, all throughout those vacant lots, and that ultimately didn't come to fruition, so we ended up selling that the duplex. But my point is that if you take on too much leverage and you think like the gravy train is always going to be, you know, coming in, well, you could get, you know, smacked in the face like in 2008, which is what ultimately happened to this gentleman. And we came in and swooped up and bought this 100+ acres from a publicly traded bank for pennies on the dollar. So the next step in the video is I'm going to drive, sorry for the shaky camera, we're going to drive down here. I'm going to explain to you what this product type is. Again, not going to name the specific company. However, I'm going to tell you why that single-story luxury apartment product is doing so well in this day and age for 2019 and going on. And then we're going to drive down past this, and I'm going to show you the single-family home that I built ground up, spec. Spec just means speculative. We didn't have a end buyer in mind, but we did end up selling it. So all is good. You know, we made money on this project. Obviously, the people that built these made a lot more. But at the end of the day, I was just getting my feet wet. This was like 2013, 14, 15, right around there. So without further ado, let me show you what that single story product type looks like. So this is going to be much easier to explain while I just stay in my car and drive by this. But you can see here, this is pretty much the product type that I'm talking about. So these are all basically side by side. They're one building, duplex, single story luxury apartments. So take my word for it, they're really nice on the inside. Let me get at this side where you can actually see some sunlight on them. But basically, this is a privately held company here in Northeast Ohio that builds thousands of these units all over the Midwest and in the Carolinas. And ultimately, the reason these are doing so well is because the primary demographic of this company are the either the baby boomers or the people that are selling their big, you know, McMansions that, you know, have empty nests at home. So instead of moving to like a senior living facility, sorry, you can see here that the street pretty much ends. How you doing? When's the new phase coming in? I'm just recording for a YouTube channel.
I have no idea.
Okay.
The gentleman down there in that gray Jeep will know.
Okay, I can't take my BMW down there. I gotta get my truck. All right, have a good one. All right, so you can see here that they're starting a new phase, which means that these are all filled up. So whenever you see developments that stall, that means that obviously the builder or the developer doesn't have much momentum in terms of sales or leasing. So obviously they're not going to continue the development. So these all look pretty much filled up to me. So people are probably either at work or, you know, they're just chilling at home for the holidays like that person is. But again, I digress. So the reason these are doing so well is because people, or the baby boomers or whoever that bought their McMansions that are, you know, 3,000 square feet, and you have to realize we're in the Midwest. Those houses are not that expensive. You can get a 3,000 square foot house right now for, you know, 350 grand, and it's probably going to be laid out. So with all that being said, these people that are downsizing, that have empty nests where their kids move to college, you know, and they, you know, ultimately don't want to maintain that big of a home or pay that much in property taxes, they ultimately sell that home and they get into one of these apartments. So the reason they're ranches and the reason that works is because as people get older, obviously we know that they're not in the best shape physically, and they have chances of falling or hurting their knees or their back or hips or whatever. So it ultimately works out perfectly. And the way those are designed is that they have a guest room, which is perfect for the kids or the grandkids for when they come into town for the holidays or whatever. So we're now in the development that we purchased. So this is part of the development that was defunct, that was 100 plus acres, 100 plus residential lots. A lot of these houses that you see here didn't exist when we bought this. So this house right here, this is the house that I built spec, and I'm gonna jump out of the car real quick so you can see it. Actually, you know what, I'm just gonna turn around and I'll restart the video when I turn around. Okay, so this cul-de-sac, this is where I'm actually turning around. A lot of these were vacant lots, so nothing was built here. And then now you can see a lot of these are newer construction. And keep in mind, these are just basic homes. These are not like custom masonry, and you got these old Italians that are coming out and doing all the stonework and all that stuff. These are pretty much just your typical sticks and some drywall, but ultimately it's still a good product. You can see here, this is the house that I built. It's a lot newer and nicer than the house next door. So that's the older product, this is the newer product. And this was pretty much just a couple that was younger, maybe like in their early 30s, and they wanted to start a family, and they were just looking for a nice new home. This is a pretty good school district. I'm not originally from this area. I'm not from this area at all. But I had to go through a million different meetings and minutes and proposals and zoning and all that stuff. You can find all the minutes online if you really want to, of all the meetings that I attended to actually get this approved for these apartments. So there's a lot that goes into it. And while doing that, I really got to learn, the zoning director, even the mayor. And then also their economic development manager, whatever you want to call them. And basically what I discovered was it's a good school zone, or school district, excuse me. And a lot of people from this area, they were actually opposed to building all these apartments. But, fast forward 2, 3, 4 years later, it turned out to be a really nice project, and it didn't really increase the traffic or crime or anything like that. So I think a lot of people just get scared with new construction. Imagine living in a community and you have basically 200 plus apartments coming online. You think that that's going to add to like crime and traffic and all that stuff. So which was ultimately not the case. So I'm gonna drive to the last home that I built, ground up construction, and I'll show you all the vacant lots that we actually owned, and we sold those, and we sold the single family home. And I got a cool story with that single family home while I did have it rented to do 2 different parties, and I will touch on that. So bear with me. Thank you. Okay, here we are in beautiful Court. Okay, so we owned, this was a lot, there's now a house there, which I did not know this existed. This is a beautiful lake back here behind this home, which actually all these homes border. This, I'm not sure if they can turn that into a lot, it's probably too steep, but here she is in all her glory. So sorry for the shadow, the sun's coming in from directly above us. But basically this is Court. So we built this because this was also a neighborhood that had a lot of vacant lots on it, and we're not in the same development that I was just in. We're about 15 minutes south of there. So ultimately we bought 4 lots here from a company that was in Louisiana. We just offered them a ridiculously low, laughable price for these lots, so we owned them for pretty much next to nothing, maybe a couple grand each, if that. Some were obviously buildable, some weren't, as you can see here, but we wanted to start with 1016. So this was all intended to be rentals. Okay, these were all intended to be rental properties. You can actually see the dirt that we moved from like 3 Januaries ago, maybe. That's still sitting right there. But ultimately, it's right around maybe 1,200 square feet. We wanted to do all rentals. I think I had this rented out for like $13.50 a month, and I promised you I was going to tell you a story over here, but Basically, the 2 tenants that I did have in this property over the course of maybe like 4 years was essentially a woman who was studying to be a doctor. So she was a resident here in Akron, Ohio, and residents make, 50, 55, 60 grand here. And when I ran her credit, my jaw almost hit the floor. So this goes back to another one of my videos talking about student loan debt. So this woman, who was maybe in her like mid to late 20s, had a kid, a husband, a good head on her shoulders. I pulled her credit because that's what you do when you want to look at a potential tenant. She had, great credit. All her payments were on time. She had $300 and something thousand in student loan debt. So $300 something thousand. I couldn't believe it, and that's when it clicked with me. Like, wow, student loan debt is really a problem. Like, I knew I had some graduating, but that is just a ridiculous amount. And granted, she'll be making at least 6 figures as a doctor, but still, if you don't specialize, that's still a lot of money. So anyway, the second tenant I had in there was a gentleman that just wanted to move him and his family in there while his like mega mansion was being built, believe it or not. And this guy was a franchisee of 20 Domino's pizzas. Okay, so when I'm asking him, like how much monthly income do you make, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, the sun is killing me over here. When I asked him, what's your monthly income? I'm trying to get an idea of like, do I want to rent to this guy? He was just like, 25 grand a month, 30 grand a month. Like, he didn't even know. It was so funny. So I'm like, okay, here's the keys. No, but all joking aside, ran his credit. He was obviously good. But just a couple tips. The reason we sold that one is because when we sold that was when the market was really starting to heat up, and we had no intention of building out the rest of these lots or the other lots at the development we were just in. So me and my partners just said, hey, let's walk away. Let's make, some money on these, and whatever, lesson learned, no big deal. The other reason is because I had a management partner, so I wasn't really worried about like getting the 2 a.m. phone call of, hey, my toilet's leaking and my drain is clogged and blah, 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 and this and that. But these were still about 50 minutes to an hour away from where I live, and I just didn't want to own property that far away. If something were to happen to the management agreement, or the management partner wants to get bought out or doesn't want to be in it anymore, then I got to find a management company, and the numbers become tighter, and it just wasn't worth it. So ultimately, we all just ended up deciding to sell the duplex, the single, the spec home that we built, and just say, forget about it. But my lessons, or the takeaway from this video, because I feel like this whole video has just been about like, not like bragging, but like, hey, I built this, I did that, I did this. I think that real estate is always going to be a part of your portfolio, and I think it's necessary. But at the end of the day, I still believe in a diverse portfolio. I'm starting to get back more towards tangible assets as opposed to pixels on a screen. So my how do I say it? I still have an appetite for getting back into real estate, just not right now, because I do think everything's a little bit overpriced. Unless you can, build stuff on your own, and you want to knock out a bunch of these things. So the reason I'm walking down this way is because there's actually a product type. This developer built a bunch of these, and these are pretty much either owned or all rentals. So where that car just pulled out from, all of those are rentals, and they're owned and operated by one company, and that was originally our goal. And those people, they're doing very well for themselves. That's their entire business model. So if you can build them, and you can own them, and you can manage them, pretty much being an owner operator, that's when it makes sense, because you're getting the economies of scale. At that point, like I said, we built the one I just showed you. We built for $100 a square foot. The duplex we built for about $100 a square foot. So I hope this was useful, you guys. I know this video is a little bit longer, but this is a real world example of real estate. I know not everyone has the ability to have a builder partner and build things brand new from the ground up, but that's why you got to get creative with your marketing and find stuff that is undervalued. So I hope you guys got some value out of this. As always, please share with one friend if you did get value, and if you didn't get value, give it a like, and whatever, maybe the next video will be better. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching. Thank you.